stress eating can really hold you back for your wellness goals, especially if you're looking for weight loss. Now, it can be a little bit tricky to stop stress eating in its tracks, but today I'm going to be sharing 4 super simple techniques that you can use in order to stop stress eating and actually achieve your wellness goals. Alright guys, if you're new to my channel, my name's Autumn and I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's nutrition human performance. On my channel, I'm typically talking about the science-backed information on how you can achieve your wellness dreams and feel amazing again. And part of getting you to feeling good again is stopping the stress eating. So before we can really understand how to stop stress eating, let's first talk about what can cause the stress eating to happen in the first place. You can't really have the how to fix it before you understand the why it happens. So there's some theories on what causes stress eating. One of them is something that you guys, especially the AM peeps, are super familiar with, and it's with the increased stress comes increased cortisol, which is the stress hormone. With that increased cortisol comes more of that variable blood glucose level because cortisol's main job is to increase the blood glucose level. But as you know, it's not really safe for your body to have this consistently high blood glucose level. So those high levels of blood glucose can result in more of a crash. And it's during this crash in your blood glucose levels or hypoglycemia when you start to get those insatiable cravings, especially for more carb or sugar rich foods that will cause a fast increase in your blood glucose levels. So things like chips, crackers, cookies, candy bars, protein bars, all of those things that are going to be higher in carbohydrates or sugar tend to be the things that we go toward when we are in that stress state because it is that fast source of energy. In fact, I believe it's in 2007, there's some British researchers who did a study on this to see what it was that was causing the stress eating. And they found that people who produce more cortisol in response to stress actually were more likely to stress eat as a result. So that really ties back to how cortisol is one of the main issues when it does come to stress eating in the first place. Now, another factor that can come into play for stress eating is the addictive comfort quality that can come from a lot of these sugar-laden foods. So you guys know the whole like comfort foods things. I mean, there's literally a physiological component to that. And when you're in a state of stress, your mind could literally be seeking these comfort foods as a form of comfort for yourself during that stressful time. So since we know that cortisol tends to be an issue when it comes to stress eating, then what we really need to do is make sure that we focus the strategies to stop stress eating around reducing a cortisol response. So you guys have seen so many of my videos, as I'm sure, and you know that there's so many tactics that we can use in order to balance cortisol and reduce it to, more of the healthy levels. But right now I'm going to share 4 more specific to stress eating strategies that you can use right now. So the first one is to make sure that you just stop hunger in its tracks in the first place. So if you're eating a more satiating meal, like what we're always talking about, where it has the fiber and the fat and the protein components in order to turn off those hunger hormones, then you're going to have a less variable blood glucose response. So your blood glucose levels are going to be a lot more stable, which means you're not going to have those spikes and falls. And remember, it's during those falls that you have that insatiable craving to have something like the snacks or the cookies or the candies. Plus, when you prevent that hypoglycemia, it also can prevent increased cortisol levels anyway, because when you have that hypoglycemia, your body will naturally start to produce more cortisol because it's trying to raise the blood glucose back up to normal healthy ranges. And as we talked about with that previous study where they found that people who produce more cortisol tend to have more stressful eating, that's something that we want to avoid in order to prevent that stressful eating in the first place. So stabilizing the blood glucose level by having a satiating meal and hitting all those hunger hormones is going to help to prevent that stress eating later in the day by preventing the dip in the blood glucose, which results in the spike in cortisol. In fact, you can try out one of my smoothie recipes right here, and that's an amazing meal to have in order to stabilize your blood glucose levels. Okay, strategy number 2 has to do with if you're actually just really stressed in that moment and you don't really, you can't get ahead of the cortisol in the first place. So one way that you can actually significantly reduce your cortisol for free is just by stepping outside, at least for 15 minutes. So if you just go on a walk for 15 minutes outside, studies actually show that by being outside, you're going to be able to absorb those negative ions, especially if you have like a park or a river or something close by where it's more of a natural environment. And exposure to those negative ions for 15 minutes has been found to significantly reduce the serum cortisol level. And remember, that cortisol level, the more we can bring it down, the more likely we are to prevent the stress eating anyway. So if you aren't able to walk outside, then even standing up, walking around your building can also be helpful for reducing the stress levels. It won't have as great of an impact as it would if you were walking outside, but you can still get some of the stress reducing benefits of just walking in general. So even though it might seem counterintuitive if you're in a stressful situation and you have a deadline or something's going on where you're under the gun, it actually is in more of your favor to go on that stress reducing walk because you'll be more mentally capable of handling that stress anyway because you have less of that fight or flight response going on. All right, number 3. This has to do with coffee because you guys know I love coffee and I think like most people probably do. Actually, I thought there are a lot more people that really love coffee, but I have found that there are people that just don't like coffee, which I don't understand. But the quality of your coffee can also have a really big impact on your stress levels as well. So some coffees are going to contain mold toxins. That's just through the processing and packaging process where mold can begin to grow, and that mold will produce mold toxins. And those toxins can just increase that fight or flight response within the body, and the fight or flight response corresponds with the cortisol hormone. So this is why for people who suffer from anxiety, I always recommend swapping over to an organic and mold-free coffee because it does help with reducing that fight or flight response. But also for the stressful eating, since we know that we want to reduce the fight or flight, reduce the cortisol in order to prevent that stressful eating, and opting for an organic mold-free coffee will help for that. So the only brand that I'm aware of that is both organic and test for mold is Purity Coffee. I'll link them down below in the description. You can check out details on that. I also have a discount code you guys can use. The one I use every day, and it's one that all the AM peeps use. So if you're looking to reduce stress, reduce stressful eating, and maybe even reduce anxiety, then definitely swap out your coffee for organic mold-free. Check out Purity, or if you find another one that's organic and test for mold, fantastic. All right, number 4, removing the offending foods, the foods that you're more likely to snack on if you are in that stressful situation. Just removing those from your workplace or your house or wherever it is that you tend to have that stressful eating. So like I mentioned in the beginning, things that tend to get us going for that stressful eating foods are like crackers and cookies and candies and bars. Things that we can munch on, things that are easy to access, and things that are higher in carbohydrates or sugars, all those foods that aren't going to help you feel great anyway. But if you don't even have them in your house, worst case scenario, if you can't get outside, if you weren't able to get ahead of that blood glucose stabilization, and if you didn't have a mold-free coffee, you can at least make sure that you don't have those foods that promote the stressful eating and make it very easy to stressful eat in the first place. So whether you donate these foods, give them off to someone, throw them out, whatever it is that you're going to do, just get the foods that you're more likely to snack on in a stressful situation out of your environment, and that way you're less likely to snack on them if a stressful situation does arise. Plus, another incentive for why you want to get rid of these foods are going to promote more of those blood glucose spikes and falls, which means it's going to cause more of that cascade of craving more of these foods anyway, and more of the foods that are going to go against your goals and keep you in that higher insulin response, making it more difficult to tap into fat burning mechanisms. Which, by the way, if weight loss is a goal for you, I have an amazing video for you to check out on the 10 ways that you can actually lose weight without counting calories, because that does not work. You can check it out right here. Also, if you love this science-backed information on how you can feel amazing again, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out with new videos every Tuesday and Thursday, so make sure you turn on the notification bell so you can be alerted when I come out with a new video. All right guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.